And after this conversation, I'm really thinking to like a few specific kids who can't take notes at the seat, can't do or struggle, I should say. They're really struggling to look up and look down. And I hadn't really picked up on that specifically before, but when they go to boards, they are on it. They're right there, they're zoned in, they're leading the group, they're taking charge.
Hey, everybody, welcome to Tier 1 Interventions Podcast. We are here today to talk about a Geo Board. Geo Board is a very interesting device. And when I first looked at it, I only saw it from an occupational therapy perspective where we were working on it with hand strengthening and such. But I come to see how valuable it is as a math tool as well. Today, we are going to blend the math and the occupational therapy together so that you can understand better what it looks like to have a geoboard as a intervention in your classroom. Welcome, Jonily, to today's episode and everybody else who is with us.
I want to move on to chunk one. And chunk one is going to bring us back to the math. And we're going to be toggling back and forth academic, non academic all day. But I'm also going to connect this to a comment that Natalie put in the chat. And Natalie says, some of my most struggling kids do best when we work at vertical whiteboards, and this could be why. It's exactly why. I want to give a shout out to, in the math world, you all know him as Peter. Like, that's all I have to say. Peter, hey, if someone is listening to this, tag Peter. Get Peter on here. Have him listen to this podcast. We love you, Peter. And Peter has written the book and many other resources, Building Thinking Classrooms. Natalie is a full implementer of the techniques in building thinking classrooms. And I will say that when you're reading building thinking classrooms and you're adding some of these strategies into your math classroom, because it's for math classrooms, it's not just for math classrooms, but the book was written for math classrooms with specific math content. As a math teacher, we're like, oh yeah, I can do that with my math content. And so we constantly refer back to the math content. But what we're missing in Peter's writing is the neuroscience. And in little pieces, he does point out the brain-based neuroscience for why he gives the strategies he gives. But let's face it, if he does too much of that, we kind of tune out as a classroom teacher. We just want those grab and goes. Just tell me what to do in my classroom. I don't care why I'm doing it. But we do have to care why we're doing it, because then we're going to do it more frequently, because we're going to start to see the benefits. Also in the book, Peter does talk in a chapter about flow and flow state, which Cheri shares a lot with us, that neuroscience perspective on how to get students to focus and then how to get kids into a flow state where they're in the zone and nothing can relieve their attention because they are so focused on the task at hand. But Natalie, do you want to talk to us just a little bit about some of your successes with vertical surfaces that related to chunk zero? But then I'm going to move this back into chunk one for today, which is one of the mathematics pieces of using the Geo board. Natalie.
Yeah, I've definitely noticed successes with all of my kids, but I've always noticed that some of my most struggling kids are the most successful. And after this conversation, I'm really thinking to like a few specific kids who can't take notes at the seat, can't do or struggle, I should say. They're really struggling to look up and look down. And I hadn't really picked up on that specifically before, but when they go to boards, they are on it. They're right there, they're zoned in, they're leading the group, they're taking charge. So like now I can really pinpoint some of those specific kids and see that why they might be struggling. They're very capable. Now I have more strategies to help them succeed, and explains why that switch is so much better for them. But hashtag building thinking classrooms, vertical non-permanent surfaces. I've been in it for I think this 3 years now, and it is a game changer, and it goes so nicely with everything we do. It's not another thing, it's just a different way, and it's awesome.
And the outcomes that I know you've said that you get from this is focus on content, increased content understanding, and as well as engagement, as well as discussion, as well as active learning as opposed to passive learning. And let's think about this vertical surfaces. Kids are on the vertical, but they're also standing, which is another thing that Teresa said. So all of these practices coming together, all we have to do is have kids stand, work on a vertical surface, and that is going to solve many of the issues that we're having in our math classrooms. Yes, and it also provides accessibility and user-friendly mathematics in our classrooms. Cheri, oh, I love your comment. Vertical surfaces decrease the need to extend wrists for writing.
Yes,
Very good.
when you're writing on a flat surface, your wrist needs to be extended to about 30 degrees to get your fingers at the position that they can actually move to. When you're on a vertical surface, guess what? You can get those fingers in that position so that they can, and they don't have to extend their wrist. So there's a twofold reason here to use a vertical surface. And mechanically in your wrist, it is to help give those muscles in the back of your arm chance to get strengthened, so you don't have to open up your wrist as far, so that by the time that you are going back down to a flat surface, these muscles are strong enough that they can actually do it.
Fantastic.
And those kids who can't do a vertical surface, but you want a vertical surface, put them on their belly with a clipboard. And it's the same thing, but they're laying down and you've decreased the gravity they have to deal with.
You know what, Teresa? This is funny because chunk number 2 today is called Teenage Tummy Time. And we're going to tag right back to that in a moment.
For occupational therapists, one thing that we do a lot is we score figures that look like this with different standardized tests that we have available to us. Utilizing those progressions that Jonily lined out will help us in our upgrading and downgrading of helping our students manipulate the different types of paper that we might present to them. When we're looking at design copying, think about how it is related to the Geo Board and the mathematics. And so it's looking at the design copying activity from a whole different perspective, because I've never looked at it from that perspective before. But when we started talking ahead of time, I wanted to make sure that I showed that. And it was an older copy of a standardized test. And I didn't show you the whole standardized test. I showed you 2 of the images from it. But students struggle to do those complicated designs like that. And they also will have trouble putting them on the physical Geo Board.
Which is why unstructured play with the Geo Board and dot paper, just unstructured, unfacilitated play in just creating pictures, images, or abstracts is not only going to benefit students non-academically and functionally, but it's going to benefit students mathematically because they are going to have a feel, a sense, a taste, a touch, a smell. It's going to engage all of their senses in how shape and images work mathematically, so that then we can attend to precision when we're defining shape, function, using those tools, which students have a hard time mathematically and non-mathematically. Yeah.
I'm just processing a lot. My mind is blown today. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So many things.
Give us a few takeaways, Natalie.
One thing I wrote in the chat earlier, I feel pretty good with my content, but then picking up these brain science things is like the next maybe big layer for me. I'm really excited to continue to learn more and just dive more into that, and just seeing that connection, just knowing that the whiteboards work for my students, but then now being able to pinpoint specific students and, oh, okay, I'm seeing that more. And even was thinking further, like one kid writes, oh, ridiculous. This doesn't even look like handwriting on paper, but at the board, I can read everything he writes. I never made that connection till today. I'm like, okay, I'm just developing those different things. So I'm really excited to, and I think really important to learn more about the brain science and make those connections. But just even the connection to content and pizza problem and diagonals, and like thinking about parallelograms and area and all the things. I'm so excited. What a great session. So excited.
So
Awesome. Awesome.
Natalie, so when he's working at his desk, not everybody has access to a slant board, but you can use a binder. Just give him a binder and see if that works for him. And just put his worksheet on the binder, a 3-ring binder. You can have various sizes. Just see if that works for him and see if just changing the height of his paper helps him.
I will try that.
Great idea.
The binding being away from him so that it's on
Right.
the slant this way.
Sometimes they collapse and you just stick stuff in it to stop the collapse, but otherwise they're inexpensive. They probably have them in the building. 3, 3, 2, 1. You can vary the size based on what he needs.
Which
Mhm.
creates that slant. Using a, yeah, couple inch binder. Dang, yes, that's so easy. Do you know how many schools throw away 2-inch binders? Collect those things and use them for slant
And you know what you
surfaces.
can use them for too? Is you can
Yeah.
use them as a wedge on your seat. So you know how kids you can turn them so that the wedge goes so they angle. You put the 3 to the front so they angle them back in the seat or the other way around so they can angle either direction. All you do is put some nice tape on it and make it nice and sturdy because you may not have the money. I don't have a budget to
Yeah.
do anything. So you just make them nice and sturdy and you can make them as wedges for the chair.
And duct tape,
Duct tape
tape
up.
cover.
Yeah.
So it's almost the end of the year.
There you go.
Kids throwing away binders, 1-inch, 2-inch, 3-inch binders. Collect all the old binders and cover them with duct tape to make them sturdy. You've got slant surfaces and you've got sitting slanted surfaces.
Or for the feet on the
But
bottom, if a kid can't, you got to make sure their feet are stable on the floor. Stack a couple. There you go. You got your
Footrest.
feet touching the floor.
Love it.
watch the duct tape and the writing surfaces
Okay.
because that will influence their writing because of the duct tape texture. One thing that you can do then if you're going to use it for a writing surface is put construction paper over the duct tape. It will help buffer that texture a little bit. It won't solve it all. But if you're writing on construction paper, it's a better blot feel than even writing on the hard desk. That ends segment 2, chunk 1 of the Geo Board. Check in next week for more discussion on how the Geo Board can work in your math classroom and your occupational therapy intervention. If you'd like to learn and hear the entire instruction on the Geo Board, you want to go to disabilitylabs.com and look for the Geo Board in our courses. Talk to you next week.